Hello and welcome back to our viewers from yesterday, and for those of you who are new that's joining us today, welcome. Good morning, good afternoon, good evening, wherever you are in the world. We are here at day 2 at the AWS Sydney Summit. Woo. It's actually Summit Day 1. Yesterday we had Innovation Day, which was very inspiring, talking about the art of the possible and changing the human experience. My name's Dean Samuels. I'm the head of the Solutions Architecture team for Hong Kong and Taiwan, and I'm joined today by
Dr. Pete, everybody, welcome back. If you're tuning in once again, I'm Dr. Pete. I'm the Head of Solution Architecture for Australia and New Zealand. And with us, we also have...
Hi, I'm Gabe Hollenby. I'm a technical evangelist. I'm based out of Singapore, and I cover the APAC region.
So, Gabe, it's interesting. You've got, obviously, an American accent. You live in Singapore, but you're wearing a traditional Australian akubra there. Yep. Can you maybe tell us about some of your experiences living and working in Australia?
Yeah, I lived in Sydney for 4 years, and it's one of my favorite places in the world. It was hard to leave. You know, the hat is great. It's important for sun safety. Sun safety is, critical down under. But before we came live, we were just having a little bit of chat on stage, and I was talking about my love of Vegemite. The first time I ever had it, I thought it was disgusting, but the second time I had it, I was camping, and everything tastes better when you're camping. And from that point forward, I loved it. Yep. Now, what most people don't know about Vegemite is it actually keeps the drop bears away. Did you know that?
The drop bears, right. Tell us a little bit about the drop bears. Because I know in Australia, there's pretty much everything that wants to kill you is land, sea, and air.
That's right.
But there is these drop bears. What are these drop bears?
Drop bears are like koalas gone wrong. They say there's no rabies in Australia, but that's just because the drop bears that kind of soak it all up. But they don't come out of the trees and bite your ankles, or worse, as long as you eat enough Vegemite. So pro tip out there,
you go.
Stay on the Vegemite, it's good for you too.
And the whole website's devoted to the drop bear phenomenon, right?
Just give it a Google. Yeah.
Well, great tips in terms of preventing drop bear attacks, right?
Yes.
But we could talk all day about what you can do here in Australia, but let's focus on the event today. So we started off with the keynote this morning, Dr. Pete. But before we get into that, let's talk a little bit about what we're seeing, the activity around here. I see there's different areas of the convention centre here.
Totally.
With talking about the future of the possible. Can you maybe talk us through that?
Yeah, absolutely, guys. If you happen to be here, but if you're not, so let me tell you what's out there. We've got a whole bunch of people. We've got about 22,000 folks who are going to be walking through the doors here over the next few days. And by the way, if you walk around, you can discover the future of retail to see what the retail experience may look like. We've also got the future of transportation and airlines. We had Alan Joyce, the CEO of Qantas, in the keynote here yesterday, but if you actually walk around, you can experience the next generation of boarding where you can use your face, facial recognition, you check in, you walk through the gates, you can then actually experience even buying duty-free by using your face as your passport. Yep. We've also got some really cool stuff around our smart cities, Dean, where you can actually walk and experience what it would be like to walk under smart lighting, where you've got cameras tracking you and watching you and turning themselves on and off to conserve power. We've got smart parking systems where you can actually go and drive a remote control car, by the way, park it in a parking bay, and recognition and a deep blend system will actually figure out whether the parking bay is free or not. So lots of innovation on the floor here at the Sydney Summit.
Awesome, and it's not just about the future as well, it's all happening today. So we see, for example, this smart boarding systems with facial recognition. I know, Gabe, you'd know Singapore Airport, Terminal 4, going through, where now you can get through passportless just by through your face. So it's not just talking about concepts, it's talking about reality.
Well, look, the future's already here, just unevenly distributed in many cases, right?
Yes, absolutely.
Yes.
And so what about the keynotes this morning? What did you really get out of the keynotes that you saw?
I loved it. So Paul Migliorini, who's the head of Australia and New Zealand, so Migs opened up and talked to us about a whole bunch of things around making this nation amazing in terms of we don't really have a challenge with talent here, right? But we do have to train the next generation. We had 500 students that Paul called out during the keynote that are actually sitting in the keynote, the future leaders of Australia.
Right, absolutely.
So he talked about a whole bunch of other things in terms of announcing some winners. So we've had Versant and Cloud Conformity as winning partner awards just the other night on Monday night. Right. Lots of exciting things.
Yeah, and one of the things that really stuck out for me is that he spoke about this being not just your traditional sales, marketing, technology conference. It's really all about a learning experience, and a learning experience for our customers, our partners, and of course for us as well, because we always want to hear feedback from the customers. And one of the ways we're doing that is over at our Dev Central area, and we've actually got this concept of Dev Labs. And the idea with Dev Labs is there's these 15-minute self-service or self-guided online labs that you can actually go through to to learn a little bit about the technologies. And I heard that since yesterday there's been over 300 of these labs being taken. But the great thing is you don't have to actually physically be here at the conference to actually have a look at these dev labs. It's available online, and I'm sure our moderators will be able to paste in the URL that you can actually go to launch and go through these dev labs.
Exactly, it's worth calling out, guys. This is a fully interactive live TV, so don't be shy. Make sure you ask questions. Our moderators will either answer it for you, or they will throw something at us to make us aware that's a question, and we'll actually give you call-outs and shout-outs.
Dean, I'm glad you mentioned the dev labs. I'm glad you plugged them. I wrote one of them that we're using this year.
Awesome.
So if you want to get some hands-on experience using the command line interface for AWS, look for the Working Effectively with AWS CLI Dev Lab and give that a shot.
Awesome.
Awesome. And so in terms of, you mentioned about the students, high school students, I presume, that are coming here. So what's the objective around that, do you think, in terms of inviting these, I think it was 500 or so high school students to really experience not only the convention center here, but also a lot of the keynotes and sessions as well? Yeah,
well, imagine being a high school student and being inspired for the future. Many of these kids who are currently at schools are going to be getting jobs that don't exist yet.
Right.
We talked about this yesterday a little bit, but fundamentally, whether it's community managers, whether it's blockchain architects, all of these jobs are going to be opening up in the near future, possibly way after they graduate, right? Or even before in some cases. So what we've been doing over the last few years, we have had a number of student tracks where we invite students along and we have a dedicated track for them where they can actually learn and hear from some of the industry leaders about the art of the possible, right? I often hear it's impossible. I keep telling my kids, put a little apostrophe in there and it becomes I am possible, right? So we're trying to actually take Whoa! Thank you. There's a question coming. So we're trying to actually inspire them and give them some examples of what is possible in the near future.
Yep, absolutely. And then we also spoke about continued learning, and Migzi actually spoke about the fact that we've trained over 150,000 folks since 2012.
And we've got targets. We're thinking really big here, guys.
Big,
we want to do 500,000 people.
Yep.
And we've already thought about it. With about, what have we got? 20 odd million people in Australia. We'd like to actually get to 1 million. Right, which means we're going to have to be very aggressive about inspiring the next generation, starting early. We have a number of programs, AWS Educate programs, where we're actually going to universities and actually providing free content to academic institutions, TAFE colleges, because when you think about it, cloud is everything. In the past, you used to go to multiple vendors to source your technology. Now you go fundamentally, hopefully to us, with 165 different services. That's a whole bunch of vendors and technologies all rolled into the one platform.
Right.
And it does require a lot of awareness.
Absolutely, and I have to actually say shout out to the guy with the great hat, Gabe here.
Thank you,
that's a shout out from Chuck. Yeah, Chuck Churumelas. Sorry
Thanks for that. It's an Akubra. It's made of rabbit fur.
and since there's a shout out to you, Gabe, the question is, what's the most surprising thing you've seen at Summit today?
So the day's just gotten started, so I would say for me the most surprising thing is actually maybe also the most and the least surprising. There's 22,000 people here. That's surprising to me because it's a lot more than it was last year, and that last year was more than the year before. So it shouldn't surprise me, but the ever-growing pace of growth for Summit and just innovation from AWS in general, it's impressive and exciting that we still see more and more people coming to this learning event in order to learn more skills and get exposed to new things. And the high school students, hearing the 500 voices in the audience when we asked how they were this morning, it was really uplifting to me because like you said, none of us, when we were in high school, had
the opportunity, right?
Well, we never had the opportunity for this. I certainly didn't. I don't think you guys did either. And none of our jobs that we have now existed when we were in high school, like you said.
Spot on. So I got another question, by the way, from the channel, and that is, what's the most interesting stand to visit? So I'll give you one, by the way. I think there's an F1 car, by the way, there's a bit of a link back to the keynote. F1 car actually on the show floor here. Go check it out. It's a pretty impressive vehicle.
Right. For me, well, my wife loves shopping,
don't all wives love shopping? Michelle,
no. I mean, I don't mind shopping as long as it's online. I like online shopping, so I know exactly what I want, and I'll go and purchase it. But there's actually a future of retail, which does take that online experience experience and puts it into that traditional bricks and mortar store. So using a lot of artificial intelligence, deep learning type technologies, being able to identify items that are being picked out by the participants that are in the actual store, and actually having that online experience where it's cashierless and simply take your items off the shelf and then walk out. So really being able to take what we're experiencing in the digital world into the
so
real
legal
world.
shoplifting, right?
Yeah, technically, yeah.
Have you guys had a chance to shop at the Amazon Go store?
Not yet. I'm looking forward to it.
Yeah, so I mean, we have a store, Amazon Go, right near the HQ in Seattle, and it's a very exciting and strange experience the first time you go in, because you just take whatever you want off the shelf and you can put it in your pocket, you can put it in your backpack, and just walk out. It's really convenient, but it's exciting and just a little surprising the first time you do it.
Yeah, and it's all about that concepts, right? Testing out these hypotheses, like the Go store, and see if it is something that catches on, it's something that customers actually want, and getting feedback from customers. And it's a good indicator that when you have those new ideas or you have those new hypotheses, delivering that MVP, that minimal viable product, to test that hypothesis out, so you can actually get the feedback back to get into this infinite loop to do the improvements or pivoting and whatever else you need to do to see if that hypothesis is going to be successful and therefore disruptive.
Correct, and we've got a question from the floor, and the question is, where do I get cool AWS t-shirts? And the answer is, come down to the Twitch area down here, go and see Kim, or get on the online channel and start asking questions.
Right, awesome. And so after Migsy was on stage, we then had Glenn Gore.
Yeah.
Migs, yeah. And so we got Glenn Gore as MC. First of all, I guess, the biggest question, what t-shirt was he wearing?
Right? So he was wearing, again, we had a recap on this yesterday, he had an interesting t-shirt. Today he had a t-shirt all written in sign language. Did anybody pay attention and figure out what it said?
Yeah.
I think it, yeah, what did you think it said?
No, I didn't know.
Wasn't rude?
No.
I thought it was actually Amazon.
I thought it was Amazon. I thought it said Amazon because it was the big old tick from A to Z. So
yeah. Whoa. All right, by the way, this is how we get questions. People throw stuff at us. That's a bit of food, I suspect. All right. And so Glenn talked about some really interesting stuff. He talked about really about creating tomorrow, about doing really important things as builders. So today is Developer Day, right? So he talked about how we can go about creating the future, and he spoke about a number of different ways, and whether it's tooling or high availability of number of different tools to do the same thing. And obviously, builders want to have choice, and choice helps you be more creative and leads to more innovation.
Yeah, absolutely. And one of the sticking points for me is he spoke about agility is important. So obviously, the time to market to deliver these ideas, so you can get that feedback almost immediately, but almost important is the concept of experiments. The fact that you should not be afraid of failure.
Correct.
If you are not failing, you're probably not doing it right.
And you're not learning, right?
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah.
I mean, it's not an experiment if you know the outcome. Kind of defeats the purpose. So not being afraid to have those failures. Obviously, the important thing is learning from those failures and, of course, minimizing the cost of failure, which is what, obviously, the cloud platform can do when it comes to actual technology.
Isn't the famous quote from Thomas Edison something like, he didn't fail at making a light bulb 200 times, he learned how not to make a light bulb 200 times.
Yep, exactly right. Yeah. Exactly.
And that's really the genesis for so many different, things that changed the world. Like penicillin was an accident, obviously the light globe, a whole raft of stuff. And you think about machine learning and reinforced learning, it comes back to, you smack the AI or the algorithm if you got it wrong, and hopefully next time it gets it done better, right? So learning, flirting, typical kind of commentary you get from startups. And speaking of startups, we also had Square Peg Capital, Paul Bassett, who's the founder of it, and he also spoke about Australia, and he originally started as one of the co-founders of Seek, which is our premier online job site here in Australia. And he talked about how they evolved over the many years, but also called out that Australia doesn't have a talent problem. No. So startups worldwide, are you listening? There is no problem of talent. It's for us, he called that maybe more confidence. Yep. We are so far away from the rest of the world. We have so many smart people, but sometimes we kind of hesitate about making those global leaps. Yep. We're great at building locally, but taking and exporting our technology, and Seek, for example, and many customers like and partners and digital organizations have exported, so whether it's Envato, we have Canva on stage as well.
Yep. And then, sorry, go ahead.
That's just a nice tie into that, speaking about the fact that Australia, doesn't have a lack of talent. That was echoed in Lisa Miller, the head of growth for Canva, in her section of the keynote, where she said, Canva is a truly global brand now. They've got customers in many countries around the world. They even worked from the beginning to make sure that their designs and their infrastructure was set up for global distribution. They launched in English, but now they've launched into many other language markets, including China, thanks to the fact that the AWS infrastructure was able to support them there. But yeah, I mean, Lisa talked about they're able to hire plenty of talented people in Australia, and even to attract international talent, because Sydney is a wonderful city to live in.
So they're not fighting for other competing organizations' talent, right? The
That's right.
talent on war, what a war on talent is a lot less here in Australia. And I loved her stats. Like, they had 1 billion created digital assets on Canva. And one I really liked, which really stuck with me, was there's a sheriff in the US who actually creates warrants using Canva.
and it wasn't just new age companies or modern organizations, right? We had Grenier Kearns from Lion, an organization that has been around, I think, since the 1700s, that are looking at new ways to innovate. Obviously, they've got their brands across food and beverage, and how they can innovate both in the physical world and also the digital world as well.
And gluten-free beer. Whoever would have thought that would be a product, right?
My mother-in-law would love that. She needs gluten-free. Doesn't drink beer too much, but it's at least an option there, right?
Indeed, indeed.
And so then to close off, what was the key takeaways? We went back to Glenn, and he was talking about the art of the possible and what the future would look like. What were some of the key takeaways for you?
For me, it was going back to the basics. Thinking about disruption, in microservices, and going from monoliths to microservices to serverless. And the tech debt bit I thought was rather interesting. A lot of people think about tech debt as something you'd go back to, really old legacy platform. But Graham made some really great points around tech debt can happen on modern technologies, like building code that's serverless with API gateways fronting it. If you get the code wrong, that is actually tech debt. It's not necessarily the old legacy platform that's been in your company for 20 years. Tech debt is really anything that stops you from growing and evolving and taking the business to the next level.
Yeah, and so just to close off, we actually did have another speaker from Formula One. We don't have too much time now to go through that, but we actually have a session coming up on Deep Racer. It might be actually a good idea to talk a little bit about Formula One as well, in terms of what they're doing around collection and analysis of data, and also visualization. But unfortunately, we are out of time, so please tune in for our next session. We'll be talking about AWS developers, Gabe and I here, and we'll have our colleague Adrian White on stage. We look forward to seeing you then. Please remember, ask your questions in the chat, and our moderators will pass it on. For now, see you next time.
See you soon.
Ciao.